This is Lincoln Stoller from MindStrengthBalance.com, reading a piece called Ecology Big and Small. Quote, "We are like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it is forever." End quote. Carl Sagan from Cosmos. We think we know all of what we are and control all of what we do. We say we're responsible and entitled to our authority, so we're due life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and not just from our government, but from nature. A disease seems unfair, even unjust. But nature doesn't agree, and we can't win the argument. So we view the virus as separate and evil. We have little authority at the microscopic level of the virus, aside from taking care of ourselves. But then, with regard to our environment, we don't act responsibly either. We think of ourselves as individuals, but we are an ecosystem, inside and out. We are larger and smaller, older, and less responsible for our situation and our fate than we believe. It's not clear whether our sense of identity is even necessary for our survival. Most animals, to whom we grant little self-identity or rights of life, not only survive, but harmoniously prosper. It would be hard to argue that humans achieve greater life, liberty, or happiness than other animals. We take it for granted. Ecology. For 100 years after Alexander von Humboldt introduced the idea of ecology, it was just an idea, a theory, a fantasy. In the 1970s, we started to see some consequences of urban pollution, limited resources, and effects of a global nature. Ecology, which was already a political football since the time of Malthus, became a populist slogan with Back to the Earth movements, represented by the Whole Earth Catalog, Greenpeace, Earth First, and others. These movements were a hodgepodge of cultural change, anti-corporatism, communalism, and romanticism. They lacked a sustainable plan, goal, community, or economy, and because of this, they lacked unity. Ecology of this sort said, "Save our resources," with the unspoken addendum of, "for us." This is not ecology. It's sustainable planning, engaging in a group hug in which no one was serious. No one knew what was going on. To this day, there is no comprehensive definition of ecology. Small e ecology amounts to doing bad things less. Conservation. Big E ecology has tried to define itself as deep ecology, but this keeps falling down. It falls down because it has no plan or goal. Ecology is not separate from the whole ecosystem, which includes the wills of people and the wiles of governments. Real ecology is a way of being, not a way of thinking, because being will maintain itself. Real ecologies involve feedback between all of their interacting parts. Until we, as humans, have an awareness of all the parts that we affect, we can't plan a sustainable ecology. Virions. To the virus, we are not people. We are just an oasis of resources in a barren landscape. For them, or it, we are everything, and were they religious, they might revere us as the animals on which they depend. Quote, "It was an exciting moment. People realized we didn't know anything about microbial diversity." End quote. Jean-Michel Calvary, evolutionary biologist, 2003 co-discoverer of mimivirus. What does it feel like to be the prey instead of the predator? Are we any less important because our survival is not assured? If the survivor is recognized as the superior form, what of the virus, which will never die? We shepherd our external ecosystem and our internal biota. The viruses are the wolves. If we understood the necessary role the virus played, could we collaborate? Do the caribou feel sympathy for the wolves? The wolves keep the herd strong in several ways. First, they remove the weak, so the strong prevail, improving the herd. Second, their threat compels collaboration, communication, and consensus. And third, when the ecosystem is balanced, resources are used effectively. We're in a similar position. The virus does endanger the weak. We might object that one's immunity doesn't reflect one's importance, but in the end, the virus is the arbiter of fitness. If we valued our elders more, we wouldn't warehouse them in vulnerable nursing homes. That's society's choice. Are we going to do anything differently now? What of our strength? We can improve the emotional and nutritional quality of our lives. The virus is a test of our health decisions, many of which we've been lamenting and ignoring for years. Many of our decisions have served short-term wants over long-term interests. Unlike wolves to caribou, the virus gives us things. In fact, viruses have contributed greatly to our evolution. Viruses are the only organism that shares its genetic code to create both mutualistic relations and to actually transport genetic material between organisms. Viruses share genes across the entire tree of life. Much of our own genes have been acquired from viruses. Our mammalian placenta has viral origin. 8% of human DNA is of viral origin. Quote, "We use DNA from viruses to do things that are essential to our own survival, scientists are finding. Somehow we've managed to domesticate some of these invaders." End quote. Carl Zimmer, from the New York Times. When attacked, we circle the wagons. Is the virus's ability to penetrate our defenses a reflection of its strength or our weakness? Surviving illness involves more than running under the skirts of medicine or government. How healthy is it that the most we know about our own bodies is what we see on TV news? The virus is not a personal or a social assault. It's an environmental event. More than an event. It's a consequence of our choices. If we don't see it as an aspect of something for which we're responsible, then we'll not only fail to control our future, but we'll also fail to create our own sustainable environment. Quote, "It's not an either-or. Are these things good or bad? It's a lot more complicated than that. We're barely at the beginning of this research." End quote. Dr. Aris Katsarakis, virologist. Humboldt. Alexander von Humboldt, living in the first half of the 19th century, was more celebrated in his lifetime than any scientist in history. More widely followed than Newton or Einstein, and on par with how we now view Leonardo da Vinci. As the original Indiana Jones, he did more than anyone to make science a household word. An effusive romantic, Humboldt bridged heart and mind by presenting science as life. But his discoveries were too much for the world. Before Darwin's theory of evolution, which he directly inspired, in a world dominated by colonialism, Humboldt claimed everything was related and connected at every scale. And not just in the small or local sense, but incorporating all humans, plants, animals, geography, mineralogy, meteorology, and astronomy. the implications that the whole world is a balanced ecosystem have gone unheeded until today. It was Humboldt's 5-volume Cosmos that led Carl Sagan, 150 years later, in his own production of Cosmos, to declare, quote, "The nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies, were made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We are made of star stuff." End quote. The next step. Recognizing star stuff is not enough. The rocks are made of star stuff, but they don't have the responsibility that we do. Even our complex structure does not explain us. It's our relationships to things that define us. Rise above the idea that things can be understood in terms of their components. The solar system is made of dust, and it has created a sun, planets, and an environment that fosters life. Same stuff, different results. After you die, you are made of the same stuff as when you were alive. There's no thing missing. But you are missing because all of your relationships are gone. You are in the relationship of things. For as long as people have been thinking, we've been breaking things down, even after our most fundamental science tells us there's nothing at the smallest levels. We keep looking. Rearrange the equation E equals mc squared, and you get mass equals energy divided by the speed of light squared. It's all energy and light. What seems like matter is actually the energy of relationships. Relationships have effects that extend beyond the systems that are related. Such relationships between things don't end at the boundaries of the things. A virion is small, but the virus is as large as the ecosystem, perhaps bigger than our own ecosystem, since the virus can cross between species. The virus is as big as the relationships it creates. All the virus is one entity. The virions are all clones who depend on their relationship to our cells. As long as we are blind to their identity, they will continue to mine us as a resource. We are a resource they have no reason to conserve. You can change your relationship to your cells, in yourself, with your environment. By finding a deeper connection at all levels, you reshape the structure of the relationships and the matter created from them. It isn't one domain or the other. This isn't just a microscopic, personal, or social issue. The ecology is all of them in relationship with each other. You will not defeat the virus. You will not conquer your emotions. You will not subjugate the environment. The virus, your emotions, and the environment each require a balance, an alliance, and you learn this alliance by creating it. All doing starts with a vision, an image, as what can be imagined. All insight and direction comes from there. You must create the ecosystem in your imagination, like a hologram, as something you can recall, recreate, or re-experience. I've created a guided visualization called Ecology, which guides you to experiencing yourself as a system in a larger system, and to think beyond mechanism to synergy and balance. To act in harmony with our environment, we must feel our environment and act in consonance with our feelings. Ecology is not just acting to maintain the balance, it's maintained by understanding at a deeper level that it is the right thing. Listen to Ecology as a separate podcast that you can find in this series.